Okay, yeah, ready.
Okay, wait.
That's good?
Now.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone. I don't know why I'm getting all applause anyway, but yeah. So basically it's just going to be a 5 or 10 minute speech. It's going to be slightly on the other side, just giving you my experience, just in terms of the whole marketing aspect. So I have 2 companies. I have one which is a software development company. So we provide front-end, back-end, off-site development services to businesses. And also we assist with SEO work, so search engine optimization, this whole Google Analytics, backlinks, and so on and so forth. So trying to build a software development aspect in Austria is quite interesting. Number one, because in other countries, in the UK for example, you can be able to pick up the phone and call a business, yes? In Austria, it's illegal to cold call. Does anyone know this? Yeah. So if you pick up the phone and you cold call, you're going to get a knock on the door by someone saying, no, don't do that, it's going to be a big fine. So that means one would have to think outside the box. So what we said is, okay, so how can we be able to reach small businesses? We understand that there's a massive need. And what we said to ourselves is, let's do this. First and foremost, we'll identify a specific road in Vienna, for example, with busy shops or small businesses. We'll go on the website, we'll take a look at their design, we'll take a look at if there are any aspects that need improving. One thing which is extremely interesting, what I found, a lot of websites are not secure, which means they don't have an SSL certificate. Does anyone have a website that doesn't have an SSL certificate or not secure? Okay, so Johan. So there's a lot, but obviously these changes. So what we then do is basically create a 1-page audit report. And the audit report will give information about the website, how many backlinks are connecting, the keyword searches for that specific business, information about the design, so whether it's mobile friendly or not. And we create this report, and then what we then do is, I have a few sales guys, they'll then go to the business and provide them with this 1-page document. So they'll say, hello sir, hello madam, we've done a free appraisal of your business in terms of SEO, and these are our findings. And what we found is astonishing. Number one, you're giving people free information that's going to help their business. So what you're doing is not saying, here's the information, now we want to contract with you. What you're actually saying is, this is the document, these are the areas we found about your business that you need to change, this is how we can be able to assist. So the first thing that happens is they ask questions about what can you do, about the price points, and then you can be able to scale from there. So that's an interesting strategy that we've implemented, and we're now scaling in terms of the team that we have in Austria, in terms of businesses. And then we have it on a retainer, so it's a month-to-month retainer. So as we all know, to be able to identify keyword searches, whether it's short tail or long tail for businesses, it's not going to happen overnight. Unfortunately, business owners think that it's just going to happen immediately, but it doesn't work like that. So we need to build up a long-term process to be like, this is what we're going to do first and foremost. We're going to do on-page, off-page customization, give you a breakdown of competitor research, understanding about who the SEOs in terms of the keyword rankings for your specific business, and then build up a strategy from there. So that is something we started about 6 to 8 weeks ago, and we have closed about 6 businesses already. So in such a short space of time, we thought it's good, so we're now ramping up the team. That's number one. And then number two, also in that aspect, I have a blockchain company. So we enable small businesses to large organizations in the shipping industry, and also to be able to grow and increase their transactional data. So 90% of all goods that move cross-border is financed with something called a letter of credit. So this letter of credit you need to get from the bank, and they charge you huge fees. If you're a small business, you may not have the opportunity to get a letter of credit, and if you do, they're going to charge you. So we enable businesses, where we're still in beta at the moment, to use our platform to compile transactional data by creating an invoice, a purchase order, a credit memo. Once you send it to your client, it's then held and transacted on the blockchain. the more documents you transact and payments that's made, the more transactional data you have. And then we effectively then provide a credit scoring rating. And this credit scoring rating, we connect these businesses to family offices, to investors, to funds that are willing to give capital based on accounts receivables, outstanding invoices. So one thing I said, okay, starting these two businesses as a founder for one company and a co-founder for the other is with a small amount of capital, how can I be able to grow and raise my awareness? So I said, okay, let me focus on content. We all heard about content, yes? So I said, in terms of content, how can I be able to create a lot of content, whether it's written, whether it's audio, video, and distribute this content via various channels? Now, because we have a small team, it's impossible to be able to do that 5 or 6 pieces of content a day. So then I said, okay, we need to think outside the box, how to be able to maximize. Now, the important thing with Google, obviously, they have certain updates that take place on a regular basis. But the most important thing about content is it's organic and also it's evergreen, dependent on the content you write. So it's going to stay there forever, irrespective. So then we said, okay, what we need to do is utilize content whereby, as a business, so I'm in a blockchain business, I'm looking for supply chain companies. So I want to be able to interview CEOs, founders, C management within that space and ask them questions about their business. So tell me about when you started the business. Tell me about what was the reason. What challenges do you have? What are you doing to overcome these? This is in an informal room with a camera. So what I'm actually doing, I'm having a conversation, number one, with a potential business client, and number two, this is content. And the same piece of content, whether it's a 30-minute piece of content or 1-hour content, I will then use that content and break this down into 40 or 50 different pieces of clips. So there's video content, I can then cut this in pieces and then upload it to Instagram, Facebook, and then also I will transcribe the video as text and also as an article for LinkedIn, which is crucial. And then in addition to that, I'll strip the audio and have the audio as a podcast. So, does anyone have a podcast? Anyone listen to a podcast show, first and foremost? Okay, just name any shows. What's your favourite podcast show? TED, great.
Is the Champions Mindset.
Champions Mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Anyone else?
How I built this.
How I Built This, who's that by?
Sorry?
Who's the author?
I don't know the name.
Okay. Anyone else?
Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss, absolutely fantastic. So what we're now seeing is we're seeing a huge shift in the space regarding content. So I'm sure the majority has maybe a Spotify account, yes? Spotify recently acquired a company called Gimlet. Gimlet, that was, I think, was for $340 million. So Gimlet is a platform that provides, let's say, podcast shows, and it's all aggregated. So what Spotify have now said is that 20 to 30% of their revenues will come via podcast. And that's fascinating. So what that means to me is that there's ways that you can optimize your content, but also number two, if you grow your podcast, you can then also start charging a fee. So CPM, yes? Cost per mile impression. So for example, if you have content on YouTube as an ad revenue will probably charge, I don't know, anywhere between $4 to $8, let's just say. But with podcasting, you can potentially get $25 per CPM. And that is direct to you as profit. So we've all heard of, I'm sure, Joe Rogan show. So Joe Rogan has been doing this. Does anyone know Joe Rogan? Yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple of people. So Joe Rogan is more or less, he's like a martial arts expert. He's a commentator for the UFC. But what's happened now, he's grown in terms of his brand awareness. Really from, did we hear anything about what happened with Elon Musk a couple of months ago when he was smoking marijuana on a show. Did anyone hear about that?
Yeah.
That went viral, yes?
Yeah.
And that went viral because it was on a podcast. And the host was Joe Rogan. So basically, someone like Joe Rogan now purely just done this because he wanted to interview and speak to people. Now he's doing this 3 to 4 times a week. And his content he's using, and he's getting probably about 50 million views per month. And he's charging for ads about $25. So I don't know who has a calculator, but that'll probably work out to be about $1.2 million that he's making purely on a podcast show. So what I'm saying is in terms of content is king and how you can be able to create information and distribute it. So one thing I've also struggled with is, and we just had this conversation with yourself earlier, is having a personal blog, but also having your own blog for business, for example. And I truly believe that the content in terms of efficiency and productivity will be by maximizing use of video, audio, and then really scaling from there. The reason why I say that is because, does anyone have Alexa, Amazon Echo at home? Or any voice-enabled devices? Okay, so three people here. So last month, Amazon broke 100 million sales of their devices. 100 million within the last couple of years. So what that's telling you is that within the next probably 3 to 4 years, 60% of the population in the Western world would have a voice-enabled device at home. I.e., when they wake up, they'll ask about the weather, they'll ask other information. But the unique thing for a business is how you can be able to create a skill. This is called an Alexa skill. So if you're in the fitness industry, you can be able to create a skill. You can be able to provide content in terms of education as an audio. And then you add this skill to Amazon. And then what then happens is that you can reach clients who will be interested in your service. So what we're doing for our blockchain business, as an example, is we're creating an Alexa skill. An Alexa skill would mean that when a client uses our platform, in the morning when he or she wakes up, they can be able to speak to Alexa to find out what was yesterday's revenues, what was the outstanding invoices, what was the last payment that's made. Purely communicating with voice. So second to our health, time is the most valuable commodity. And what's happening now within the next 30, probably they said about 1 to 2 years, 60% of all communication, especially with WhatsApp, for example, that's the main go-to place, you'll be actually using voice messages. So I don't know who does it now, but 90% of my messages are used voice. I don't send text anymore. Why? Because it's about time. So what I'm trying to say is a bet that everything's moving towards audio and how you can be able to create innovative ideas that you can be able to utilize for your business that focuses on things that may not be used or widely spoke about today, but things that people will be looking at doing in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And this is the reason why I'm an advocate of blockchain, because obviously the space I'm in, but ultimately, irrespective of your industry or the business, it's how you can be able to reach your clientele, how you can reach your customers. And that's really good by building a brand, and also now it's about attention. So building to a point where people understand your product, and they build that trust, as Johan mentioned, and then you can be able to create information that is valuable, but really it's free, because sooner or later you're going to be able to come back to the client. Does anyone have any questions?
Would you add that into the channel? Because what kind of channels are we reach your customer? Yeah? Would you say that would be a huge channel?
In terms of Amazon or Echo?
This kind of skill thing, how to reach the customer by maybe wake up and...
Yeah, I believe, listen, like, no one's really building these channels now, but in terms of cost, it's inexpensive. Obviously, there's not a huge demand for it right now. However, as the growth of voice-enabled devices, Google, Siri, by building a skill would be extremely important for your reach and for your clientele. I tend, you can focus on 3 or 4 different areas that you feel may happen, but if you focus on the right areas of where the market is moving to, one of them will work. And like myself, I've just created a podcast. The first person I brought on a podcast was George, that basically came on. And the podcast was just really informally just discussing, talking about digital trends, ideas. And now I've done 3 podcasts already. I'm looking to do 2 podcasts per week. I've now syndicated on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google. And now I'm tracking in terms of the streams. And I'm astonished. I had within the last week, 60 people that were already subscribed without any marketing whatsoever and only doing 3 podcasts. And with that podcast, I'm distributing it via all the different channels. So actually, I've decreased the time that I spent before in writing long-form content and adding it in LinkedIn, in sending messages on Facebook and so on and so forth, and now I'm just doing a podcast or just doing a video. And I'm reaching also, at the same time, potential clients. And that's how you can build that trust.
Is there a shift to the IoT, Internet of Things? Do you have a feeling?
Yeah, I think obviously with the 4th Industrial Revolution now, and then also with Moore's Law in terms of computational power, that's more or less doubled. It's doubling every 18 months. VR, artificial intelligence, as your specialist in, yes, you mentioned earlier, and also, with blockchain is still very early, yes, and then also with these areas, that's going to be cloud computing. That's going to really be areas that people are now starting to work on and build. There are a lot of people that provide a lot of content. There's a gentleman I think a lot of people know here, Gary Vaynerchuk. I would definitely recommend that. He has a slide share it's called Gary V Content Model. Yeah. So he's provided an 80-page slide share document about how to distribute content and create content. Normally, people will sell this for about 10,000 euros. He's given it for free. So I would definitely recommend that people write this down if they really want to think about content and distributing information.
Can you repeat the name?
It's Gary Vaynerchuk, and the slideshare is called Content Model. It's an 80-page deck that gives you, from the start to finish, of how to create content, how to distribute the content, how to build relationships with clients.
If you search on Google, it will come number 1. I read it last week.
Because he knows internet marketing.
I have another question. If the companies have so much interest in giving free content to the users to get their attention,
Yes.
Is there any way for, paid content in the internet anymore? Because there's so much free content then. Is there still someone who charges it then in some years?
Of course, I think paid content will always exist. I'm not saying just to focus purely on free content, but to also have a balance, yes? Because no matter what, even though you go for paid content, what a lot of customers will do is if they're seeing a sponsored ad, for example, on Facebook, a lot of clients will just go to Google and type in the name of the business, right? So if you're not creating content via different platforms, they're just going to say, I don't know anything about this business. But if you're distributing free content and you do paid ad at the same time, then you're covered in terms of due diligence. Because a lot of clients would not make an instant decision unless it's like a low barrier of entry in terms of a price point. Myself, I do a lot of research if I'm looking to purchase something. And what everyone will tend to go to is do a Google search. So by having a hybrid of paid and also free, can be able to help to build that process.
Why do the people buy content? I don't get that actually. Because for example, for music, why do the people pay a Spotify premium account if they could have Deezer with AdBlock and it's completely the same product? You must not pay at Deezer.
So say it again, sorry?
At Deezer, you must not pay for music. If you have AdBlock, you don't even have advertising.
Yes.
Why do the people pay for Spotify premium?
Convenience.
the convenience. Everything's aggregated via the one platform. Yes. So I have a Spotify account. When I go to the gym, I'm just selecting the different podcasts or different music. So it's about efficiency, convenience, speed. So we always go back to time. Yes. And as I just said, second to our health, time is the most valuable commodity. So people will be willing to pay $10 a month just for that convenience.
Ethics.
Ethics as well, yeah. Morality, ethics. People know that if someone's looking to spend their time to be able to create some phenomenal songs, then they want to really pay back, right?
Not going to jail.
Yeah, again, going to jail, it's another thing. Yeah.
So how to reach your podcast?
It's called the Otalor Experience. Yeah, so I can send you a link afterwards, basically. Anyways, it's a young podcast. For me, I'll be honest, I was procrastinating for about 3 to 6 months about podcast. I was like, oh, when shall I start it? I'm not too sure.